let this happen to you, call the guys at Troy's Roofing to get the job done right the first time. You see, Troy's Roofing has been doing this throughout New Brunswick for over 20 years. That's why they do a better job at a more competitive price than most of the other guys. Plus, they're on site within 24 hours of your call to provide a free estimate on peaked and flat roofs. And now they can reach even greater heights. Oh, and one more thing, don't do this yourself. Call the professionals at Troy's Roofing, because after all,
we do it right the first time.
And cut.
Hi everyone, welcome to Before the Bell, brought to you by Troy's Roofing and Construction in partnership with Sports Combat News. My name is Brian Willett, and today on the show, we have a former middleweight Elite One champion who will be competing on January 26th for the Elite One MMA welterweight title. He has a record of 9 wins, 4 losses. Please welcome to the show, Alderic Keith. Alderic, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, no problem, man. Thanks for having me.
So, Alderic, let's start things off by talking about those weight classes. So, you fought for a while at welterweight, you went to middleweight, and now we're going back to welterweight. So what's your decision, obviously, other than the title, to go back to welterweight?
Well, like I said, I started my career out at middleweight, and then I was there for a little bit. I kind of felt like I wasn't weight-wise big enough for the middleweight division, so I dropped down to welterweight. Had 2 fights, and Liette and Mike approached me to see if I would go back up to middleweight to fight Chris Curry for the belt. They didn't have anybody to face him, so I decided to do that. Won the belt. Then I ended up defending it again. Well, I fought Adam Hunter, lost it. After that, they had asked me if I would have a rematch with Chris Curry. Did that, won. Then they offered me the another fight for the belt against Bruno. When I fought with that one, I felt like it was stopped too early. I asked Elite One for an immediate rematch that night when I was still in the cage. They said they couldn't do that, that Christian was next in line. I said, yeah, no problem then. I'm going to be dropping back down to 170. So, yeah, the main reason of me wanting to fight at 170, I find that weight-wise at 185, I'm just not. A lot of these guys, they bounce back up to 200 or over. And a lot of the times when I fought at 185, I weigh in at 185, and fight night I'm only like 192, 193. Whereas in welterweight, I find I gain back a lot more of my weight, and I feel a lot better at welterweight.
So you talked a little bit of weight cut for middleweights. What do you feel like this weight cut's going to be going down to welterweight? Is that something that you are starting already? Are you worried about that bigger weight cut, or is it something that you already have a dietary plan, your coaches are ready for you, and you've kind of already got that set in your mind?
Yeah, man, like this fight, the last 2 times when I dropped to 170, like it's a big difference between 170 and 185. It is 15 pounds. So the first couple times I've done it was a bit hard, but this fight camp, like, it's going amazing. I'm working with Omar Ali at Formula 4 Fitness in Fredericton, doing strength and conditioning with him, and he's also taking care of my nutrition plan. And like, this is the best that I've felt, like any cut. Even when I cut the 185, it was very easy for me to make it. Well, I'm making 170, and this is feeling like very easy. I'm keeping all my strength. Like, I can't say enough. Ever since I've been working with him, like, this weight cut is going very well. So yeah, I feel really, really great for it, and it's not going to be a hard cut at all.
And that's great to hear, because sometimes you see at weigh-ins that fighters are they're almost trying to drain the water out of their bodies the day of, trying to make that weight. And it's great to hear, as a professional fighter, that you're taking that into consideration the whole way, so that you're not draining that energy on the day of weigh-ins, right?
Yeah, like, I'll definitely have to still do a water cut. That's part of the game, kind of thing. But yeah, my energy levels getting down to the weight that I'm going to do the water cut from are way higher than any camp that I've done, especially camps that I've dropped to 170 or 175. My strength's going up while my weight's coming down, so that's great. And yeah, I'm not feeling weak. I'm not feeling hungry. Like, with the meal plan that he's got me on is great, and it's like, can't say enough good things about it. Like, it's difference of night and day with my training, with being on a proper meal plan instead of just guessing. Oh, I feel like today I'm a bit heavy, so I'm going to eat less. Oh, next day I feel light, so I'm going to eat more. Like this is all calculated out and it's all taken care of for me. And yeah, no, I feel great for this cut.
That's great to hear. And you talk a little bit about your nutrition coach. So let's talk about your other coaches. Where do you spend most of your training camps? You are from Moncton, New Brunswick. Do you spend most of your time here, or do you travel the province, or do you go abroad as well?
Yeah, well, for the most of my training camp, Spitfire Muay Thai in Moncton with Tony Doolin. I go there for my striking. I also, for jiu-jitsu, I've been going to Victory. I've also been going to here and there. I've been doing a couple classes. I believe it's GFL. It's in the same building as Fists. I've also been doing some training with Jeff McKay, working on my boxing with him a bit too. So that's where I go when I'm in town. I also go up every fight. I go up to TriStar in Montreal. I've already been there once this camp, and I'm actually leaving this Sunday to go down and finish off my camp up there.
Is that, I mean, that's huge to be traveling up to TriStar. So you must be training with a lot of known fighters up there while you're there.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like it's a great place to train with UFC fighters and Bellator fighters and just all top-notch guys, even guys that aren't in the UFC. Like there's guys that aren't in it, but they're going to be there soon. Like they're killers down there for sure. So it definitely gets everything sharpened up right before the fight, and it's a great place to be for sure.
And is that an advantage? And not all fighters can travel up to Montreal or outside of their own city, for example. Do you think as a fighter, is that an advantage for you against your opponent, that you're able to go and train against these, UFC, Bellator athletes?
Yeah, I definitely feel that it's a huge advantage to be able to go and train at the top facilities. Like you're training with the best in the sport, so it's gonna improve your game as well. And like, don't get me wrong, it's still great. Like I still have great training partners here, and I still get in great work. But when you train with the same people over and over, you kind of get to know each other's styles. Whereas then when I go up there's so many people that each sparring or each training is different, because you don't know that person's style as much as when you're at a smaller gym. It's so large out there that you have all kinds of different people that you're training with, plus you're training with guys that are at the place that you want to be. Like you're training with UFC athletes, you're training with people that, like, top-notch coaches. Like, and like I said, the coaches here are still top-notch as well, but I like to get a bit of everything, right? So it definitely helps the game, I find.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are great coaches and great athletes here locally in the Maritimes that can help train. But like you said, right, you start to learn maybe each other's moves, or things start to go a little bit easier because you're taking easy on each other. So it is nice to go abroad. So I think that is a great tool to have in the toolbox. You mentioned a fight against Chris Curry in St. John. That was a fight in St. John. I just want to bring that up a little bit because I was there for that fight. I've seen you fight a lot. So this Chris Curry fight stands out to me a little bit because in that fight, you did get rocked, visibly injured, if you will, staggered. But then something happened. There was almost like a switch that turned on in you, and you came out to win that fight, which... and I'll say it, I don't think anybody thought that would happen. How does an athlete, or how do you, like, literally bite down on your mouth guard and come out of that fight and say, you know what, this is not happening, this is still my fight? How does that even happen? Is that something that just triggers inside of you? Because obviously we can't train for that, right?
Yeah, like I think that's something that you can't really... it's not that you can't learn it, but I think that's what's in somebody, and that's the thing. Sometimes some of my best fights have been after I got tagged, and it just kind of wakes you up, so to say. But yeah, like I'll never give up in a fight. I'll always keep pushing forward. In my mind, I can always land that punch, or I can keep moving forward. And I never want a decision. I always want to try to finish it. But with that fight, Curry was tough as hell, and yeah, when I came out that second round, I was like, the first round's over. Like, it's just, I took the worst of it and I made it through it. So in my mind, like I said, I had to get him back, kind of thing. That's, I guess, once I get tagged, it wakes me up, and then I guess the fight or flight comes in, and me, I don't have flight, I've got fight. So
no, that
it just makes me push harder.
Absolutely. And you can see that, those fights where you like you talk about that Chris Curry fight getting tagged, and you can see it inside of you that you're not willing to give up, which I commend you for that as a great trait to have as a mixed martial artist when you step into that octagon. Let's talk about January 26th when you face Christian Savoy for the belt. He's undefeated at middleweight. You have a record of 9-4. You guys have been going back and forth a little bit on social media, kind of talking about opponents. What do you think your advantage going into this fight is?
I feel like I'm a better striker. I know what he's going to do. He's going to come in and just try to wrestle me. It's no secret. If you watch any of his fights, that's the way he tries to do. He comes in and doesn't really like to stand. I think he knew that his last fight with Nakarado, nothing against him, but it was an easier fight than what he was supposed to have. So I think he tried to show that he could stand, and he got wobbled with him. So I think Christian's going to come in and try to take me down, but I'm prepared for everything. So, and that's the thing. If he actually believes what he's saying about how he's going to walk through me and I'm the easiest fight he's going to have, like, it makes no sense. I've got me alone. I alone have just as many wins as all of his opponents combined. So I'm not taking anything away from him. I know he's a good wrestler, and I'm preparing for that. So I think that my striking is better than him. I think on the ground, I think I'm better than him as well. I've got submission wins. He doesn't have any submission wins. I'm not going to discredit him or think less of him. I'm still preparing. And that's what I mean. Whenever I train, I'm training that even though I feel I'm better than him, I'm going to be training as if he's better than me, or if that he could get it, because anything can happen in there. So I'm training full out for everything, and I feel that my cardio and that my striking is definitely going to showcase in this fight.
Yeah, and I look forward to seeing that. Obviously, in the octagon, you're both great athletes, and you both have the grit and determination to want to step out of that with the belt around your waist. So, there's one thing that I've always been interested in, and watching whether it's UFC, Bellator, Elite One, whatever card you want to see. You are a taller fighter. You are 6'3", and you face opponents that are typically around the 5'11", 5'10" range. Is that an advantage for you? Do you find that is something that, your reach advantage, your height advantage, that truly you can train for and then your opponents have to deal with?
Yeah, whenever you're fighting a taller opponent, you always have to take that into account. So I find I use my range pretty good. So I enjoy my range, and I find that it works good with my style. So, but I've also trained, as you've seen in the Chris Curry fight, that was a very close range fight. So I've got tools to be able to adapt for whether it's long range or whether it's close range. So I'll definitely be ready for wherever it goes.
And what in the end got you into MMA, Alderic? What is it that kind of sparked your interest in this sport?
All through high school, I was very competitive in sports. Like I played football. I was on varsity football, varsity basketball, all-star football, MVP and captain of my basketball team. I got offered to go to university. I went to university for 3 weeks for basketball. Realized I was literally just there to play ball, so I ended up dropping out. And small world enough, as I went to McNaughton with Brad Duguay, and we have mutual friends, and they were just like, man, Brad's doing pretty good in MMA. Have you ever thought about checking it out? In high school, I didn't go looking for stuff, but anyone that's been in high school, there's fights that happen, and I was never one. I didn't go looking to start things, but if somebody came to me, I didn't cower away. I stood my ground. So I'd had my fair share of fights, and I always walked away on top. So he was kind of like, man, you can hold your own. Why don't you check into it? So it kind of started just as a pastime. Or not pastime, but a hobby. I started going just here and there, and then the more I started going, I started training more and more, and then within 6 months of training, I had my first professional fight, because back then there was an amateur in New Brunswick. So yeah, within 6 months of training I had my first professional fight, and within 5 months of having my first professional fight, I had a total of 3 fights. And then just kind of went from there. Wow,
so that's great. I mean, all-around athlete gets you into it. And then you it sparks interest. It is addicting after a while once you start, and then you just want to keep going with it. So you've had a great career. What are your aspirations? What is your your goal? Everyone obviously dreams of making it to the big times, but what are your goals with MMA?
Like I said, I think making it to the UFC is obviously a huge goal of mine. That'd be a dream come true. Like I said, I tried out for the Ultimate Fighter Canada versus Australia. I was actually an alternate on the show, so I felt like I got close with that. But the goal is definitely to make it to the big show, like you said, and it would be a dream come true. That's exactly what I want. I want to make it to the UFC and just be the best athlete that I can be.
Yeah, and I think that, and you know, seeing a lot of your fights, obviously you have the traits and the tools to make it there. And you know, this is just on January 26th, just another fight under your belt and a stepping stone to get to that big show. So Alderic, before we do take off, are there any sponsors or any shout outs that you'd like to do?
Yeah, no, for sure. Like I said, like go away to Montreal. I train full time kind of thing right now. So without my sponsors, I wouldn't be able to train the way that I do. So I definitely have a list of sponsors here that I'd like to thank. First off, Formula 4 Fitness in Fredericton. Like I said, Omar Ali and his team. Like ever since I started, none of my fights before I've ever done strength and conditioning. I've always done my own thing. I've never had a nutrition plan, and like I said, the difference is day and night. So big shout out to him and his team at Formula 4 Fitness Fredericton. Moncton Honda here in Moncton, they're sponsoring me. All Max Nutrition, they've been with me for a while, so they take care of all my supplement needs, and Supplement King as well. They're a great help. Dental Health Center as well for all my dentists, and they do my my mouth guards. They do a great job. Any athlete that's in any sport that needs a mouth guard, I highly suggest going to see him because he's got performance enhancing mouth guards. Unique Limousine and Car Service. They're going to be making sure that the night of the fights I'm driving around in style. Got a stretch limo Hummer that's going to be going on, so definitely a big shout out to them for the sponsorship. Bernie Rogers Trucking. He's in Barnesville, New Brunswick. Like again, a lot of these guys are all repeat sponsors. Like huge thanks go out to them because, like I said, it's not just one time. They're constantly helping me out. Studio 21 Tattoos in Dieppe. They do all my tattoo work. Rodney Robichaud, great tattoo artist. Anyone interested in tattoos, definitely hit him up. Five Bridges Neighborhood Bar and Grill here in Riverview. Delicious food. Like they've sponsored me before too, so big thanks going out to them. Head Rush Moncton. Also Dwayne DeFazio at DeFazio Inc. Out in St. John. Big shout out to him. He's been a great help as well. And for this fight, I've got Pat Hache from Pat Hache TV and videography and photographer. He's actually been following me around this training camp. At training, at sparring. He's gone up to Formula 4 Fitness with me. Actually, he was there today with me. That's where I was coming back from. So he's been doing like a lead up to this fight, and he's going to be doing a video for it. So huge thanks to him. So after this fight, at some point when that's all done, people watch out for that because I'll be releasing the video. That's
awesome, and you know, and maybe I'll have to jump in that limo with you to get to those fights.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big limo, man. So I'm sure there'll be room. I'm gonna be arriving in it, and after the fight. Oh, actually, and Revolution nightclub, official after party location for me after this fight. So everyone that's going out to the fights afterwards, come on out to Revolution. Gonna be partying up there. It's definitely the place to be in Moncton. And yeah, it's a huge shout out to them for coming on board or for a sponsor too for, like I said, my after party. So I got the Unique Limousine limo driving me to the fights, and then after the fight's going to be picking me up, bringing me there. And yeah, it's going to be a good night.
That's awesome. Riding in style, and then we're going to party in style afterwards, right?
Exactly. Ride in style and then party hard after.
Love it. So Alderic, awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show, and we want to thank Troy's Roofing and Construction, where the customer comes first and they get the job right the first time. Contact Troy at 506-693-TROY. So Alderic, thank you so much once again for being part of the show. And if the viewers haven't guessed it already, they need to buy their tickets for the Elite One MMA Bitter Rivals card on January 26th at the casino in Moncton, New Brunswick. because if you haven't heard, this fight between Alderic and Christian for that welterweight title is going to be amazing. The fireworks are going to go off, and so you don't want to miss it. There shouldn't be anywhere else you want to be in town except for at the casino on January 26th.
Oh, no, like I said, man, thank you so much for having me. I definitely appreciate it. And, yeah, like I said, January 26th, you don't want to miss it. It's going to be an awesome fight. And, yeah, this isn't no hype. We don't like each other and bad intentions. Like I said, it's going to be a fight you don't want to miss.